Welcome to this episode of Unraveling Adoption, an intentional space to delve into adoption's complexities together. I'm Beth Syverson. I'm an adoptive mom of a 19-year-old son, Joey, who is in and out of recovery from addiction and who is struggling to find his path. I'm walking beside him and working on my own personal growth and healing while he's working on his own as well. He and I are committed to helping anyone touched by adoption, especially other adoptive parents, and we want to help the general public understand adoption's complexities better too. Today's guest is Melissa Brunetti from Central California. She's a domestic adoptee who had great adoptive parents. She did everything right. She got married, she had a career, she had 2 children, and she was in the church choir and everything. So why was she so unhappy and depressed? It wasn't until she was 40 years old that she realized why. We will find out why in this episode. Now, Melissa has a podcast called Mind Your Own Karma, The Adoption Chronicles, and she is doing great work on the leadership team at Fireside Adoptees as well. And I think one of the best things we can all do, and especially adoptive parents can do, is to just listen to adult adoptees' stories. So, Melissa, we're all ears. Thank you for being here on Unraveling Adoption to share your story.
Thanks so much for inviting me, Beth.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to know you. We haven't worked together for very long, but we've already done a few things together.
Yeah.
We've already collaborated on a Fireside Adoptees Constellation Roundtable that you hosted, which was amazing, with me and a birth parent and an adoptee. And I'll put links to that. And also, I'm going to be on Melissa's podcast, or maybe I already was. So
Yay.
by the time you all hear this, so I'll put those links there. So we're in collaboration, and I love making connections and collaborating with other people in the adoption constellation. So great. First, why don't you start with just summing up your adoption story? What was your childhood like? The basics of your adoption story.
I was born in 1968, so the end of the baby scoop era. And later, I found out that my mother was 19 and not married, was planning to get married to my dad. And he went off to Vietnam and came back before I was born and basically said, the deal's off.
Oh, dang it.
So, yeah. So she was in college. And when she was 6 months pregnant with me, her mother passed away. And her
Oh,
father was
no.
not very supportive. So he wasn't going to help her in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, no.
So she didn't really want to give me up. In fact, when I was born, I went to foster care for about 10 weeks because she was trying to figure out a way to keep me and just couldn't. Finally, the adoption agency was pressuring her and saying, you need to make up your mind. What are you going to do? She's getting older. We need to place her and all that stuff. So she was pressured into doing that. And during that time, I always wonder what I was thinking, because I was not only taken from my birth mother and placed with foster parents, but she would come see me every once in a while.
Oh, that must
So
have been really
she-
confusing.
Exactly. I didn't think about that till later. What was I thinking? Was it like, oh, mom? And then she was ripped away from me again. And so just, that back and forth a few times. So I kind of always wonder how that affected me later. So at 10 weeks, I was adopted and my parents came, and it's so funny, the story my mom tells. She's like, they brought us in and they were like, you could take her clothes off and look at her. And my mom's like, no. She's like, I looked and you had 10 toes and 10 fingers. And I was like, I'm good. We're taking her home, crazy. And they were told that I was totally healthy and fine. And my mom took me to the doctor a couple of days later and I had hip dysplasia, which as a mom, they check the baby's hips. That's just one of the things. So my mom contacted the agency and she said, hey, I just want to let you guys know that the doctor checked her and this was what they found. And the response was, well, you could bring her back if you want to, and we'll give you another one. Like, do you still have your receipt?
Oh, Lordy. That's
Do you have your receipt? You can return her. And my mom was just like, I'm not telling you to bring her back. I'm just telling you. And that always made me angry. But my mom's take on it was that she thought the doctor put that down on my paperwork so that I would get adopted. Because if people knew that I had a hip problem, which I was in a cast for over a year of my life, I couldn't walk or anything.
When you were a little baby?
Yeah. So it was a big deal. And I had multiple surgeries and a lot of work. But my mom thought that the doctor was really trying to save me in the long run from maybe not getting adopted.
So the agency's doctor failed to mention that you had this major health issue. But if he had put that down, maybe people would have passed you over. God, that whole thing just is terrible. All of it.
Right? You feel like you're at the clearance section in the back of the store.
Yeah.
As is sticker on me. Take her as she is or whatever.
We went to adopt our dog from the German Shepherd Rescue. And sadly, adoption is similar.
Yeah.
Dogs, but they're like, we have this other dog, but she's missing an eye. So you probably don't want to see her. We're like, don't care. And she's been
Yep.
the best dog. Like, what is wrong with
Right.
people? It's about ableism and that consumerism. Like you're some sort of piece of property or product.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
that must feel terrible.
It was. It did. And it does. But that just shows what great parents I ended up having.
Yay.
So I had the best adoptive parents ever. I couldn't have asked for better. So I did have a positive adoption experience where I know a lot of people don't.
And that's the end of the story, right?
No, no. So growing up, I always knew I was adopted. My parents told me. My mom would tell me a story from the day they got me about
Okay.
going to pick me up. And so I never remember being told. I always knew.
That's the way to do it.
Exactly. I was just going to say that is the way to do it. Don't wait. Don't sit the kid down when they did that totally right. And in fact, they were going to lie to me at first and not tell me I was adopted. And if you look in my baby book, my mom had written all this stuff out and it's scratched out. And then she wrote in the real stuff. So thank God,
Did
right?
someone get to them or something? How did they switch their?
There was a few stories that they had heard from people that family had known. And everybody knew this person was adopted except the person.
Oh, that's so terrible.
Don't say anything, but this person's adopted, but she doesn't know. So, horrible.
That feels terrible.
So I'm so glad they didn't. But, growing up, I remember being scared all the time. And then we had a neighbor that would come over. And I remember being probably 3 years old. And he would come over and he would say, I'm going to take you home. I'm going to take you home. And, he was not trying to be creepy. He was just basically saying, you're so cute. I'm going to take you home,
Oh.
And I was freaking out. Like, you're not taking me from these parents,
Oh, no, that's your fear right there.
Yeah, just little things like that. My self-esteem was horrible growing up. And I was the compliant child. So I did everything I was supposed to do.
Did you have siblings too?
I had a brother, but he was their biological, 4.5 years older.
Okay, so they had a boy and then they adopted you. Okay.
Yeah, my mom was advised not to have another child. So that was the reasoning. And plus they wanted a girl. So
So you were that good adoptee that complied, that did all the
I
things because
was.
you didn't want to get returned to the store, for crying out loud. Good Lord.
Right.
Of course you would be like that.
Yeah. So in continuing to do that through my teens and probably until I was 40 years old and came out of the fog, I did everything I was supposed to do. And I never knew that I could ask myself what I wanted.
What a concept.
Yeah, right. And in doing so, I kind of latched on to the first guy that wanted me because as an adoptee, you want to be wanted. And I thought, well, shoot, if I don't take this guy, I don't know if anyone else is going to come along. And I'm 19 years old thinking this. So I was married right as I was turning 21. And, you just kind of go, okay, well, we've been married 2 years. It's time to have a kid. And we have a boy. And then it's like, okay, it's 2 years later. We should have that picket fence, oh, now I'm supposed to do this. Now we're supposed to do that. And again, never consulting myself. And to be honest, I feel bad because my ex-husband was a casualty of adoption. I grew to love him, but it wasn't like I wanted him. He wanted me.
You wanted to be wanted and that worked out.
I wanted to be wanted.
Yeah.
I just made it work. But as things went on, I was increasingly unhappy. At that point, I didn't even know what my favorite color was. I had lost myself so horribly. And it was making me literally mentally and physically ill to the point where I thought I was going to literally die.
Wow.
And the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, ran thousands of tests, couldn't find anything. So they ended up putting me on antidepressants and, those kind of drugs, and just wasn't helping. I literally was just like, what am I doing?
Wow. How'd you get out of that?
Yeah, I finally just got sick of it and I stopped. I know you're not supposed to stop taking some of those medications cold like that, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was having such anxiety at that point, and that's just not my personality.
Mm-hmm.
But I was having such anxiety that I was having suicidal thoughts and having to just literally pace the house when I was by myself so that I didn't do something. I felt like if I stopped moving, I was going to do something to myself.
Wow, that's a scary place to be.
And so I would just pace the house, and I'd have these mantras in my head, and I would just watch the seconds tick by. It was horrible.
Wow.
So
a really low place.
I one day just said, this is shit. I'm done. I'm done with it. And I just started fighting my way back to myself. And my fog wasn't just adoption fog. My fog was my entire life. It was just one huge fog.
But you just didn't feel like you lived in your own body. Is that what you mean by the fog? Just disconnected.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I didn't even know what my favorite color was. I never consulted myself on anything. And I just kept going. It was like Groundhog's Day. Oh. Every day is the same.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I feel you. I was in a similar situation, and that was not fun. And you mentioned an ex-husband, so I'm imagining a divorce was around after this coming out of the fog business.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, that was part of it.
Yeah, it had to shift, right?
Yep. Yeah.
But I just saw you had an anniversary with some handsome man.
I did.
So you found someone else.
12 years. Yeah. No, we're not married. We don't live together, but we live very close proximity, and it works for us for now. But that's nice. We've been together 12 years.
Good. And I've heard your daughter on your pod. Mm-hmm. That was really nice. She interviewed your mom, actually. Yeah. That was really neat. And so your kids are okay? They're grown up now, or?
Yeah. My son's 30. My daughter's 28. So they're...
Oh, boy.
They're big kids now.
Own. Nice. So your mental health kind of tanked, and that kind of forced you to come out of the fog. Do you think you would have come out of the fog otherwise if life had just kept going? La, la, la,
I don't think so, because I was very protective of my adoptive parents. Mm-hmm. And I did end up meeting my birth family. And when I met my birth mother, she gave me the copy of The Primal Wound. Oh. And I was like 23, I think, at the time.
So this was way before coming out of the fog.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. 23 years old.
Yeah. I think I just had my son, or was getting ready to have him. And I decided to look. That was my excuse for looking, was, well, I'm going to start a family. So I need to know my,
medical history.
So it was a good excuse.
So you found her, and she gave you The Primal Wound.
She gave me The Primal Wound.
Which is the book by Nancy Verrier, in case anyone is new to the space.
And if any parents are listening, don't do that.
Don't just hand The Primal Wound to your
especially your birth mother. Yeah. Especially the birth mother. Not a good idea.
What did that do to you?
Well, I was super protective of my adoptive parents. Oh. And so hearing these things, that this affected me and blah, 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 I rejected the whole, I couldn't. I read it, and then I threw it away. And I was so mad at her for giving it to me, because I thought, who are you? You don't even know who I am. Yeah. You don't know my life. You don't know my adoptive parents. You don't know how I grew up.
And you really had just met her.
Yeah.
Like the first time she met you, she handed you the book?
Yeah, it was soon after. Yeah. Wow. It was almost like, oh, I know it. Like she was trying to be sympathetic.
She was meaning well, probably, but
I had never even heard of The Primal Wound or anything, I didn't know what the heck she was talking about. Wow. So yeah, at that age, I just wasn't ready to hear it.
Yeah. So how did it go with her after that?
It was good. Actually, it was good for a while. We were in reunion for probably about 8 years. She lives in Oregon, but I would go see her and stay with her. And, when you're in reunion, a lot of times you don't think about where this person's going to fit into your life after the reunion. Mm-hmm. You're just thinking about meeting this person and finding out all the questions you've had for your entire life. And do I look like you? And all those things, And so I kind of forgave her for giving me that book, but trying to figure out where she fit in after that, I felt like either she was like a cousin or like a close aunt or something, because we did look alike. We had a lot in common. We had a lot of the same mannerisms and, that kind of thing. And so I did feel a connection, but I did not have that mother connection because, I had a mom who was basically one of my best friends, I didn't need another mom. So I think she was expecting that or wanting that.
Oh, she wanted to be your mom.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, she never came out and said that, but later on down the road then this is in the 90s, we weren't emailing, so we would snail mail stuff. And one day I got a letter from her out of the blue saying, basically, I can't do this. I can't have this relationship anymore. She said, if you want health questions answered or whatever, I'm willing to do that. But I don't want to have the type of relationship that we're having right now. I just can't do it.
Wow. Oh, ouch. That
Yeah.
hurts. And was there like some big fight you had before that, or did it just
No,
came out of the blue?
I think there was a couple maybe conversations here and there that were, but I was just kind of like, where is this coming from? I didn't understand the birth mother's trauma,
Yeah, they've got their own pile, don't they? Ugh.
Yeah. And so I didn't understand that. And so a lot of this was out of left field for me, not realizing that she was reacting out of her own trauma.
Yeah.
I was just like, where is this coming from?
So I bet you took it personally and made you really sad, I'm sure.
Yeah. I was like, I'm a great person. You're missing out on somebody great. Like, what's wrong? Again, what's wrong with me that you are doing this to me again?
Isn't that called secondary rejection when
Yeah.
the adoptee gets rejected again by the birth mother? That has got to just sting so much. Did you have an adoption therapist or somebody that was guiding you through this? Or
no.
Did you know there was such a thing?
I went to therapy for other stuff, I guess, but no, I did not. No, I didn't even know. Like I said, I didn't even know about the primal wound or that it could have affected me at all. Cause like I had great parents. So, you're always told, well, everything's good. You got great parents. So yay. End of story.
I think a lot of people think that, well, it's good. We're good to go. That's what I thought when I adopted. I thought, okay, we're good to go. You'll never know the difference.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even when people find out you're adopted, they immediately get uncomfortable and they don't know what to say. It's like a very uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
And so they always just kind of want to end it. And that's how they end it. Well, you got great parents. So let's talk about something else now.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that must be really difficult. And I'm sure if you had horrible adoptive parents, that also have its own difficulties. But there's I think a layer of guilt or awkwardness when you did have wonderful adoptive parents. Like, do I have a right to even want to find my birth parents? And there are some adoptive parents that will say no, but I don't think your mother did that. I bet that's just a lot of layers to go through when you had a great childhood. Like, what could you be wanting? Well, of course you would want more, but the society doesn't let us know that.
Exactly.
It's not in our milieu, right? So, oh gosh. So that was when you were in like your 30s then that you lost your mom again.
Yeah. When I lost her. Yeah.
Are you in touch with any other birth relatives?
Yeah. I have 2 sisters from my dad, 2 brothers from my mom. So I'm in touch with all of them except one brother. And my biological dad, I met him once and he passed away in 2016. So I didn't really get a chance to connect with him that much. He was kind of a on the surface guy. I'm very willing to talk to me and meet with me and everything, but it wasn't going to really turn into anything deep.
Okay. Just you wouldn't have hung out together if you weren't related.
Right.
One of those.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I met you. That's good enough.
Yeah.
Right? I wonder if all of your experiences have given you this passion that you have to connect the people in the constellation in conversations. Has that influenced you?
I didn't know that was a need until I dove into the community, 9 months ago? I had no idea that was a thing. And I think that's when I first realized, like I said, the birth mother's trauma and that there's adoptive parent trauma or coming out of the fog,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that until I got into the community and was like, oh my gosh. And that's when I pivoted my podcast.
Yeah, because you had Mind Your Own Karma. It was about personal growth and empowerment and that kind of thing.
Which those things are a big part of coming out of the fog. So I'm glad I did those episodes. And now I know why I did those episodes. But when I saw the need, I was just like, I have to pivot. I have to do this. One story at a time. It's like when you hear a story once, you're like, okay, well, that was just a fluke or whatever. But if you keep hearing like the problems, the situations that come out of adoption and all that stuff, you hear it over and over again. I think that's when people start going, well, wait a second. This isn't the first time I've heard this. Maybe there's something to it,
Maybe there's something. Yes. If you hear it many, many times, similar stories, I think that's really important. So you've only been out of the fog for like 9 months.
Well, I came out of the fog when I was 40 and I'm almost 55 now.
Okay. So what was 9 months ago then?
When I got into the adoption community and realized that the triad, that each leg has their own fog. And I believe if we all three come together and are saying the same story.
Yeah. Okay. I see.
That's huge, right?
Yeah.
It's huge.
So 9 months ago, you entered the social media world of adoption land. Is that what you're saying?
So yeah, I guess I did come out of that fog right there and just realized, holy crap, this is crazy. Yeah, I had no clue.
Yeah. And it is very siloed. And there's a lot of vitriol on all directions, adoptees against adoptees, and plenty headed my direction with people hate adoptive parents sometimes. No matter who you are, they just say, oh, you're an adoptive parent, you're
part of the problem.
Evil. Yeah. So, and I understand because out of the three, the adoptive parents had the most choice in the matter. You as an adoptee had zero choice, and the birth parent often had no choice either.
Yeah.
And so the adoptive parent is definitely the one driving the train, at least at the beginning part. And if there aren't adoptive parents to adopt children, the whole enterprise would fall apart. So I understand the anger toward adoptive parents, but that just raw anger is not all that useful or healthy in the social sphere. And people hide behind their keyboards and just are brutal.
Let loose. Yeah.
It's brutal out there sometimes. So you have a really great gift for connecting people and helping us all see all the sides. So you're bringing people together instead of each in our own little silos.
Yes.
Which I've made my silo of my adoptive family support group. I put our little adoptive parents over here, and there's groups for birth parents, and there's a ton of groups for adoptees, which I think all those groups are valid.
And there's a need for that. Yeah, definitely.
And you are one of the few people that are saying, but let's all talk together in the same space.
Yeah. Super important.
Lori Holden's doing the same thing. I love that. And I think there's room for a lot of people to be doing this kind of work. And what have you learned? Have you learned anything, generalities about working with each different member of the triad, or is it just always different?
It's always different. Every story is different. And that's why I love doing the stories on my podcast. Everybody has their own little something in their story that someone else is going to relate to that's different from everybody else. And so I always say, your story is in the shape of somebody else's wound.
Oh, I love that.
And so you're speaking to someone out there that needs to hear that it's okay to tell their story, or I'm not alone. So yeah, I've just found that there's always some little twist in everyone's story that I hadn't heard, or, something that I'm like, somebody's going to resonate with that out there.
Yep. I learned so much from listening to adoptees. One of the first podcasts I listened to when I came out of the fog 4 or so years ago was Adoptees On with Haley Radke. She's amazing. And she just brings adoptees on to tell their story, period. And it's so powerful. And the first couple ones I was like, ugh, what? Because they're all adults, for one thing. And in order to tell your story in a cohesive manner, you have to kind of know what's going on and have come out of the fog a bit, at least. So those people that are out there sharing their story, hopefully had some sort of healing happen already, and they're in a good place that they can talk about it. And I also learned so much from birth parents. And like you, I didn't consider them. I don't think our culture considers them very often, but I think they have been just left out of getting help for, all these years. And so many people, especially your birth mom's age, were just shamed for having sex, shame for getting pregnant, shame for relinquishing, even though they also were told, but you did the best thing. Like, it's like confusing. Like, did I do the best thing, or am I supposed to be ashamed of this? I don't know.
Yeah.
So complicated.
Well, they, wall themselves off from any feelings for their child. Because they don't feel like they have permission to have any feelings. And it's painful.
They were told, just forget about it. Go on with your life. Especially of a certain age, right? How can you forget? It's really damaging what our culture does. So I love what you're doing with the conversations with the triad or the constellation. I guess we call it constellation now, because it is not just the three people. It's kind of bigger. It's relatives and the siblings and all the people involved. And would you like to share what you're doing with Fireside Adoptees? What else are you doing over there?
Yeah, there's 2 groups in Fireside. One is a constellation group where anybody can join that one. And then there's an adoptee only. And the constellation one just came about a few months ago. So that one's still growing. But the adoptee page is just adoptees, and they do Zoom calls twice a week. And you can be on camera or not. You can talk if you want or not. But sometimes they just have open mics, so you can talk about whatever's on your mind with adoption. And it's just a really free space too. I've had people on there that are just like, I don't even know what I'm thinking right now. And I'm not making any sense, but I need to talk, and it's like, that's fine. We're listening. We're here for you. And I don't think a lot of adoptees know that these spaces are out there. I didn't. I had no idea. I thought, okay, yeah, we're all adoptees. Yay, but you get on there and you're just like, oh my gosh, the blinders are off.
Yeah.
If you want to come out of the fog, get on some of these pages.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, what? Some of the stories are heartbreaking,
Yeah. But finding your peers and realizing you're not alone. And that goes for any of us. Hell, anyone. Like if you're going through cancer or whatever, a divorce, find your people that are also going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And they might have some resources or some do this or don't do that kind of advice or guidance. And just to listen to them saying things that resonate with you. It's like, oh, I'm not doing this by myself. That's good.
Yeah.
And to have that safe space where you can talk about your story twice a week. That's amazing. You guys do that on Fireside.
Yeah. Sometimes we'll have a subject or we'll start reading a book together, but it's always good just to have those open mic times too, where people can just vent or talk about whatever they want to talk about. And I like the fact that you can come on, not even show your face, but you could just listen if you want to. And if you want to talk, you can. And it's just come and go as you please. It's not a set, come in at this time, leave at this time. And it's just a free space to kind of just be in the space of adoptees and feel like you're not alone.
I think that's great. And I can't believe you've only been in the social media part of adoption world for 9 months, because you are in there. You're already a leader in Fireside. You've got your podcast going. You're making things happen, and so great to see. And I just am looking forward to seeing where you take it all. You're going to change a lot of lives. That's for sure.
I hope so. That's the goal. That's the goal. Educating the world.
Yeah. What is it that you wish you had known when you were 23 and your mom handed you that book? Or what do you wish you had known growing up that now you know that you're out of the fog?
I wish I would have known that I could consult myself and ask what I wanted.
Yes.
Without consequence or without somebody rejecting me or feeling like I was going to get abandoned, or I could have my voice and it was okay. And if someone didn't like it, that was okay too. It wasn't life or death at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a good thing to learn. I think a lot of women in our culture are working on that one, adopted or not. It's kind of women, we have to just be there for everybody else. And who cares what you think? Just keep going, keep going, keep going.
Yes.
But you add adoption on top of that, and that, I don't want to make anyone mad or upset anyone. And just putting your own needs last all the time, that's not really sustainable.
No, it's not.
I'm on a similar journey as you with that. And it's scary.
Yeah.
Because you'll piss people off because you might not do what they want you to do. And it's either you piss them off or you piss you off. So
yeah. Well, I pissed my son off for about 10 years.
Oh, gosh.
Through my divorce. He wasn't happy about that. And so we didn't have a relationship for probably a good 10 years. So in the last year or so, he's coming around.
Oh, good.
So
good.
yeah.
Good.
But, I had to be me. I had to be authentic. And he was kind of like, who are you? You're not my mom.
Yeah, I bet.
Who is this person?
It's shocking to the people around us that are used to a certain thing. Yeah, they're used to a certain way of being. They're like, what? Yeah. What's happening? The rules are changing. I don't like this. Yeah. Well, it takes some maturity to come back. And
yeah, exactly. He matured and came around. Yeah. I'm sure he's still totally not happy about it, but
well, I'm sure it was easier for everyone except for you
but he's more accepting. Yeah. He's more accepting of it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share about yourself or about the projects you're doing before we close up?
I think this year I'm focusing more on the healing aspect of adoption, and I am currently hoping to go back to school next month and learn somatic hypnosis so that I could bring that to adoptees and help adoptees, because I just feel like traditional therapy is great and I have a great therapist when I need her. But for adoptees, it just doesn't hit the bullseye. It helps. It does help. Yeah. But it doesn't hit the bullseye. And I feel like this is something that I can offer, because I think adoptees are more open to like the EMDR and other avenues that are not as traditional,
Yeah.
So, and it's working for them.
Yeah.
Those type of things are working.
Because the talk therapy gets to your frontal lobe, and your frontal lobe was not developed when your pain occurred.
Yeah.
Your primal wound happened in utero, probably, or as an infant.
In every cell in my body.
Yeah. So it lives in your body. So the somatic, I know what somatic means, and I know what hypnosis means. I don't know how they go together.
It's kind of a trauma therapy, basically. Mm-hmm. And this is like a guided imagery. So it's kind of between meditation and hypnosis. And I always believe that the answers are inside of you.
Yes, I believe that too.
And so it's guiding that person through getting them to the answers to heal them.
Nice. Well, as soon as you get your, whatever you get, certification,
whatever,
just let us know. And I'm sure there will be adoptees lining up out your door to get some help.
Yeah, I'd love to come back on and talk about it. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all that stuff. I'm doing EMDR. It's been really transformative. And we've had Kat Lindquist on, who does something similar, although it's not hypnosis. She does magnetic mind. And, there's just so many modalities. So,
there is.
If anyone's out there, anyone in any part of the constellation, and you're not feeling like you're getting that itch scratched, go find something else. There's a million things out there.
Everybody's combination's different.
Yeah.
There's not a one. I wish there was.
Yeah, I wish there was some magic thing.
Like first step, second step, third step, you're done. It's just not like that, unfortunately. No, but that's part of the journey. It's part of finding yourself and learning what works for you. It's just all part of the growing process and coming out of the fog.
Yeah, I agree. And just, I wish you all the best with that training. And it sounds really amazing. Yeah. And if people wanted to get a hold of you or find your podcast, how can they do that?
I am everywhere. Apple, Spotify, Google, Mind Your Own Karma, The Adoption Chronicles. And then I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well, and YouTube. I just started putting up some videos from my interviews on there as well, Mind Your Own Karma.
Okay. Well, I'll put all those links in the show notes too. So,
and if anybody wants to come on and tell their story, it's mindyourownkarma@gmail.com. You can email me and we'll get you on the podcast.
Okay. And do you just have, well, you don't, because you're interviewing me right after we're done here. So you don't just have adoptees.
Anyone. No, anyone. I've had foster kids on.
Oh, nice.
So yeah.
That's a whole other area, isn't it? Fostering, that those people are hurting so badly.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
They get the relinquishment plus whatever trauma happened.
Definitely.
Man. So we need to bring those people into the fold too, I think.
Yeah.
They're kind of like tangentially, like next door neighbors or something.
Part of the constellation.
Yeah. Well, I think they have a lot to say too. Well, you bring so much to the table, Melissa. I'm really proud of what you're doing. I am following you. I am on board with whatever you're up to and look forward to seeing what all you create in the future. So thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Beth.
Yeah. And everyone, please share this episode with anyone you think might resonate with Melissa's story or might be interested in her somatic hypnosis that she's going to be doing. Make sure and go listen to her podcast and find Unraveling Adoption on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and you can find our website at unravelingadoption.com. And we have an adoptive parent group called Aptitude. So if you're an adoptive parent or foster parent or kinship parent, we'd love to have you. It's a free group. Just go to unravelingadoption.com/aptitude. And if you'd like to support the work we're doing here at Unraveling Adoption and help to keep our episodes commercial free, you can join our Patreon group. You can support us for as little as $5 a month. Patreon makes it super easy. Just go to patreon.com/unravelingadoption. And I wanted to say a big welcome and thank you to 2 new Patreon members we have this week, Laura and Tam Fan. Thank you both for joining. And thank you to all of our loyal Patreon supporters. You help make this machine keep on running. Thank you all for listening. And Melissa and I want you all to stay safe.